What's up, horror fans? Happy 4th of July. And for the first time in close to 5 years of recording, we are finally talking about the Jaws franchise in full detail. Look, Danny Torkel at the beach. He's by the ocean. He did a little fin. Look at that. You can see a shark, maybe Bruce the shark out there. Jaws is Danny's favorite movie. So I think he might have a bit to say about Jaws, but we're doing all of them. We're going to The Revenge, which is your second favorite movie, right, Danny?
All time. I always dreamed of making love to an angry welder. It's
Oh
all
my God.
It's all I
Oh
dreamed of
God.
since I was a small child.
Oh God. I think I texted Danny at one point last night and I said, I'm watching Jaws The Revenge and I'm getting angry at life.
So I jokingly, I know this is a weird place to start with talking about the Jaws franchise, but Jaws is, as you said, it's my favorite movie of all time. It's celebrating its 50th anniversary. It's July 4th. I
Right.
already posted the meme this morning. For Christ's sakes, tomorrow's the 4th of July.
Right.
And I watched Jaws 2, 3, and 4 almost in a row over like the last couple of days. And
Right.
I am right by the ocean. I'm staring at the ocean right now. I'm at Atlantic City, New Jersey, and Jaws: The Revenge actually makes it easier for me to go swim in the ocean. It's so bad that I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, now I can go swim in the ocean because I'm no longer afraid of sharks because of how stupid this fucking movie is.
But Danny, it's funny, right? Because I've told you this a couple of times that I've seen like all the Jaws movies in bits and pieces on TV. Like they were always on TV and then they were on cable when I was growing up. And I never saw the first Jaws all the way through until like last year. And I watched it all the way through with Sherry, right? I kind of love this franchise, even though I really don't like 3 and 4. I like 1 and 2 a lot.
I love
Yeah.
I love the whole franchise just because I for me I'm a shark movie. Obviously, Jaws being my favorite movie, I love shark movies, and I will watch any movie with sharks in it. And
Right.
I Jaws 2, I think, is a perfectly fine sequel. It's really, one of the first major horror sequels to coming out in '78 when it was released. You think about
Right.
when all of the major franchise sequels came out. Really, I think it's like that and The Exorcist 2 and The Omen 2, which came out all around the same period. But Jaws 2, I think, holds up fine. It helps that if you've been to Disney, or not Disney, if you've been to Universal Studios, they basically took Jaws 2 and made it the ride.
Right.
And then Jaws 3, my feelings of Jaws 3, and I posted this on Facebook, and we were talking about this in our little group chat, is I unabashedly love the concept of Jaws 3. And it's a guilty pleasure for me because I just love the concept of Jaws at SeaWorld. And if they didn't make it a terrible 3D movie, and if the shark wasn't shown in like super close up, because they obviously didn't even have the model from the Bruce model from parts 1 and 2 anymore, it would have been so much better. And then Jaws: The Revenge, you just have to watch Jaws: The Revenge as the comedy that it is. And if you try to take it seriously, then yes, it is legitimately one of maybe the 5 worst movies ever made. But if you watch it firmly with your tongue in cheek, it is a laugh out loud movie. Like I always dreamed of making love to an angry welder. Somebody wrote that, and that line made it into a movie, and that is unbelievable. And I love it.
Yes. Well, it kind of
Jaws. I'm sorry. There's
Good.
this moment in Jaws: The Revenge where Lance Guest is walking on the beach with his wife, and she's trying to have like a heartfelt conversation with him, and in the middle of a sentence, he just takes off running, and and it's like, and that makes no sense. And again, if you're watching that as a serious like drama about this guy whose brother just got killed by a shark, and who by this point he is now like the only character. Michael and Sean are the only characters who are in all four movies. And
Right.
like, so now it's like you've watched Michael Brody for four movies, and you're like, man, what has this guy been going through? Nope, nope, he's just running on a beach for no reason. And you're like, okay, all right, whatever. It,
well,
yeah,
well, that kind of tees up what I wanted to talk about, right? Because I think it's very interesting that this movie follows this one family, right? And one thing I want to talk about, like if we bring it back to the first one, because this is where it all begins, we got Roy Scheider playing Martin Brody. And I think that there's something very special about him as Martin Brody. You know, you and I are around the same age. We grew up in New York. I feel like he's just this perfect, balanced character where he's not like overly machismo. He's not like sort of wimpy, neutered. He's like right in the middle there where he's like a good man. He's like masculine. He's this like trim, good looking guy, and he just seems like everybody's dad in Staten Island when they had the good dads, not the loser dads. And he's the main fucking guy in the first two movies. But then we proceed to follow his children for the next two movies. And they're
and
played
it's
by different actors in every movie, right? Like Michael and Sean are different actors in every Jaws
yeah,
movie. Yeah,
uh-huh.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And
just
in the third one, it just blows my mind because there's something really fucking off about the actor that plays Sean. Like there's something with his eyebrows that like freaks me out.
I almost feel like you don't really get a lot of Sean in Jaws: The Revenge. Like he's in the movie at the very beginning, and he
Right,
immediately gets killed. And
right,
but I feel like Sean in parts 3 and 4 is just like this weird man child.
right,
Uh,
right,
Whereas Michael, who in the second movie, when he's like an actual like mature, almost adult teenager, is like an
right,
idiot. But he
right,
becomes like this like marine biologist, scientist kind of guy, and he's played
right,
by Dennis Quaid and Lance Guest, and
right,
he's got like he's a pretty good fleshed out character in parts 3 and 4.
right,
Um, if I have to compliment Jaws 3 and 4, I think that like Michael is a good character, and I think he does show a lot of the traits, um, in part, that his father had. You know, you brought up Roy Scheider as Martin. To me, Martin Brody is maybe my favorite character in movies.
right,
Um, and a lot of what you said holds true, but I just want to add that he's just the most perfect everyman, because
right. Exactly.
you brought up this idea that he doesn't have any machismo. He's a hero, but he doesn't have any machismo. But it's
Yeah.
more than that. He's also flawed. And the movie is brave enough, and this is part of why it's such a classic. You know, the reason Jaws is for me the greatest movie ever made is it's not because there's a giant shark in the movie. It's because you have maybe three of the greatest characters of all time who are forced
Right.
to act together. But you have this character who obviously, first of all, he's scared. He's scared of the water. He lives
Right.
on an island, but he's scared. So, like, he's instantly relatable. That he has a genuine fear that other people have,
Right.
and it's not played for laughs. It's almost like this, like it's a basic character trait that defines him for the first two movies, and then he's a flawed character in that he makes mistakes and he's forced to pay for those mistakes on camera. Like he's told that there was a shark attack. He knows it was a shark attack. like he saw Chrissy's body at the beginning. He
Right.
finds her on the beach, and he knows that that's not a boat accident, but he goes along with it because he's the police chief of a summer community that depends on tourism, and he just goes along with what the mayor says. And then, when Miss Kittner's Miss Kittner shows up and smacks him in the face, that's a real moment of like, he's forced to like pay for a horrible mistake he made.
Yeah.
And then, and what follows is, aside from Quint's, speech and their whole comparing scars moment on the boat, what is probably the greatest moment in Jaws, which is him at home getting drunk, wallowing in his grief and his anger, interacting, still managing to be a good father. Greeting that dinner scene. You texted me the other night while you were watching that dinner scene where one of my favorite moments in any movie, where Richard Dreyfuss shows up and just assumes that to take a plate of food. And he goes like, "Is anybody eating that?" And he just pulls the plate over.
Right.
And then like Martin just opens the bottle of wine and like just pours himself an entire glass of wine.
Right.
Hey, we're gonna go down and cut that shark open. Can you do that? I can do anything. I'm the chief of police. And like
Right.
for the rest of that scene, for the rest of that night, he's drunk on the boat the whole time. And it's
Right.
like, he's just the most relatable character. Like
Right.
the most famous line in Jaws is he ad-libbed because it's the most relatable moment ever. Like we're gonna
Right.
get a bigger boat. And
Yeah.
and he spends the entire second half of the movie begging to go back.
Right.
That's not your hero.
Right.
In many ways, he's like the archetype of what John McClane would become, where you have like Bruce Willis, who became like the big action star, despite looking like a normal, balding, middle-aged guy in a time period where every other action hero was a roided up monster. And and part of what we loved about John McClane in Die Hard, and even Die Hard 2 and Die Hard 3, is that he was a flawed guy. He was having trouble with his wife. He felt like a real human being. Commando is fun, but John Matrix never feels like a real human being in Commando.
Right.
And Martin Brody and all the characters in the first Jaws, and even the second Jaws, I think, genuinely feel like real people. And that's the best.
Yeah. No, I 1000% agree. And you talk about archetypes. I think that's kind of the important thing here, right? Whenever you watch a documentary about the 70s and filmmaking, or filmmaking in general, and how it changed, like Jaws is the first real blockbuster. It predates Star Wars in the sense that it's the first real blockbuster. And it's so interesting because it's such a Steven Spielberg film. It's Spielberg's second film, but it just feels so much like a Spielberg film. And then I think that blockbusters inherently use Spielberg film language inherently, right? Like you see these scenes and you're like, oh, okay, I've seen this scene a whole bunch of times, but it's because it's done so well in this movie. And a few things I want to say, Danny, too, is that like watching it a second time, it felt so much quicker. Like I kept thinking, I was like, okay, this scene might be a little long or something like that. I was like, there was nothing like that. It just, I'm like, oh shit, there's Quint already. Oh shit, like they're already doing the part where they're going into the water to go check out this boat or whatever that's in the water, and then the head's gonna pop out. Like it's just so quick when they go do it when I watched the second time around, I was like, this is fucking captivating as shit. And I think that what really helps with the first movie that they changed for the rest of the three movies is that the first movie's tightly framed around Martin Brody. Like I think he's in like every single scene, almost. And like in the second, and then the rest of the movies, you have all these side characters that you start to kind of veer off and go into their stories. Like you have all the kids in the second one, and then in the third one, it's just like an ensemble cast. And then, it's really just about him on this island, and there's all these other characters. And then, like you said, there's these amazing, amazing characters with him on this boat. And like by the time we got to the Orca and they're on there, I'm like, holy shit, we're at the Orca already? Wow, this is quick. And then
Well,
just fucking Quint, man. Holy shit. You know? Holy shit. Go ahead.
it's a perfect. I mean, there's only I could literally just sit here, and say it's a perfect movie on repeat. But just the way that it is, it's basically two parts because the first hour of the movie is everything that leads up to them going out on the Orca, and the second hour of the movie is just the three of them on the Orca, and it becomes this totally different movie. And again, really you have these three characters, but again, it's the thing that makes it so great. And this is Spielberg, and this is also the script, which was mainly Carl Gottlieb, but also, it was also touched up by a lot of people, including Robert Shaw, who, of course, he wrote his own soliloquy on the boat, like the whole, Indianapolis story. He basically rewrote. But
It's fucking insane.
The movie is hilarious. The movie is
Yeah.
funny as hell. In all of the moments of like genuine horror, in all of the moments of thrilling action and like excitement, it also manages to be hilariously funny at every point. Whether it's Quint, like you said, him singing and making fun of everybody who's in front of him, his interaction with Dreyfus, with Hooper on the boat, Hooper's first scene in the movie where he tells the guys that they're overloading the boat. Do you have a good hotel on the island? Yeah, you walk straight ahead. They're all gonna die.
Right.
It's a perfect. Everything it tries to do, it gets perfectly. It's perfectly scary, funny, exciting, exhilarating. There's adventure. The music, of course, it won the Oscar for John Williams' score. It won the Oscar for editing. It's just it's a movie that there's a reason why it is being celebrated. A lot of movies came out in 1975. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest won all 5 major Academy Awards in 1975. Well, for 1975, it won picture, director, actor, actress, and screenplay. And nobody's talking about the 50th anniversary of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. But this whole year has been a celebration of the 50th anniversary of Jaws. And I think that, more than anything, shows just how much this movie stands the test of time. And, they still make shark movies, whether it's, the stupid ones on TV, on Sci-Fi Channel, whether it's like big budget movies. And every time a new movie comes out on the water with a shark, with a sea monster of any kind, or fuck it, with any just monster, with any big giant animal, it's a Jaws movie. It's just it takes that idea you said, like Spielberg has the archetype of a Spielberg film is just borrowed from this one.
Yeah. Well, it's like he has a signature. Like you see certain shots, and you're like, oh yeah, that's a Steven Spielberg type shot. That's a sequence that's done the Spielberg type way. One of the things I always notice about Spielberg films is he'll have multiple characters talking at once, and they're kind of saying different things, but they're talking over each other. Like that happens immediately with Brody, like in the sheriff's office, and then he goes down the street to go get paint for the sign and stuff. There's people, but there's constantly people talking over each other in Jaws. Then there's like this crazy shot where they get on this little ferry and they go across the water, and it's just like following them, and they're just having dialogue, but they're on a fucking boat just going across the water. Beautiful fucking shot. He is a master of capturing people's facial reactions to seeing something like that's amazing. That's like wonder or dread, right? Jurassic Park has a great example, but this is the movie that like establishes this. This has one of the most famous shots ever when we see Alex Kittner get eaten and Brody's on the beach, and we do that shot where we close up on his face and the background is zooming out too at the same time. Amazing, amazing fucking shot. Like, the first movie is so good that it makes sense that they have a sequel. 3 years later, and then I think the second one, it works, and I don't think it's a bad movie, but it is a sharp drop off from the first movie.
I mean, of course. I mean, obviously, you go from Spielberg to a clusterfuck with the backstage story. I mean, there's tons of backstage stories about Jaws 2. The director got fired. He was trying to make a more dramatic film. And the producers were basically like, we want this to be, shark eating people. And I'm not the first person to say this, but Jaws 2 is almost a slasher movie. Where
it is, yeah.
If you replace, if you replace Bruce the Shark with Jason Voorhees, the movie basically works the same. It's, big giant killer goes from different, singled out group of teenagers. There's the one water skiing and the one in the boat. And then there's the girl and the guy who are canoodling alone in their boat. And then there's the big group at the end, and all of a sudden there's the big final where the shark shows up and goes after everybody. And it basically just works as, and if you take it as that, it's fine. But what I will say, and I did a short review, and Roy Scheider wanted nothing to do with Jaws 2. He basically, and I didn't know this, he was originally supposed to be in The Deer Hunter, which is one of the greatest films of all time. Won the Oscar, I think 1978 Best Picture. Amazing movie, Vietnam movie, Christopher Walken, great fucking movie. And Scheider was supposed to be in it, and apparently he backed out of it. And because of that, he owed Universal a movie. And Universal was like, well, we're going to sue you, and we're going to destroy your career unless you do Jaws 2. And he was like, fine, I'll do Jaws 2, but I'm not going to like it. And he acts in Jaws 2 like he doesn't want to fucking be there. But it's the greatest performance I've ever seen from somebody who clearly doesn't want to be there. Because he is like, you can feel his annoyance with everything in Jaws 2 makes sense for the character of Martin Brody, given that we just had a fucking great white 3 years ago. What do you mean you don't believe me that there's another one? What do you What do you mean you don't see a shark in that picture? Are you fucking kidding me? An orca washes up on the beach. You don't think it was a great white? Come the fuck up! It's just so, he's so good in Jaws 2, because you can tell he's not acting that much, but it makes perfect sense for the character. And my favorite thing about Jaws 2, which is a kind of a retrospect moment, is when he's talking to the marine biologist on the beach, and he, and again, this is he's not a scientist, he's a regular guy, and it makes sense for a regular guy who's fought a great white shark before.
Yeah.
To ask a marine biologist, if I killed one of them, if I killed a great white, do you think this one is here? And the woman looks at him and goes, They don't hunt for revenge, Mr. Brody. They're just fish.
Yep.
And 9 years later, the fucking tagline of Jaws: The Revenge is this time it's personal.
Right. Oh God. Yeah. Yeah. It's so crazy that the Brody family are the targets of multiple sharks. I mean, it's funny with Jaws.
I was gonna ask you, because you brought this up earlier, and I was thinking about this rewatching this. It's so weird that not Spielberg, but the directors of the following movies decided, instead of making random shark movies, that they would follow the Brody family.
Right.
Because unless unless your job is like great white shark hunter, it makes no fucking sense that sharks are following the fucking kids. You know, like freaking Michael works in SeaWorld. And
Right.
then, and then, like the entire movie of Jaws: The Revenge, they just keep saying sharks don't like warm water. Why is this great white in the Bahamas? This makes no sense. I'm like, yeah, it makes no fucking sense. Like, and the mom has a psychic connection to the shark in part four. It's just fucking glorious. It's like,
Yeah. Well, so like let's use some of the folly of Jaws: The Revenge to bring up some last points about Jaws, the first one that I think are really great, right? Um, One of the things that Mike Madrono pointed out to me, and then I saw it when I was watching the movie, is that the mom has flashbacks to moments that she wasn't present for, right? And we see some of these iconic shots from the first Jaws movie. I would say it's an iconic shot when he's sitting at the table with his son and he's doing the face and his son is mimicking him. I fucking love that scene so much. And they show it again in Jaws: The Revenge in these like little amber kind of flashbacks. But then they have the shots where Roy Scheider is like on the orca that's about to go into the water and he's going to shoot the shark or shoot the tank that's in the shark's mouth. And like it's like the wife sees it somehow, you know? And I need to bring up that that's such a fucking incredible shot when he's on the edge of the ship and he's like parallel to the water and he's going into the water and the shark's coming at him. That's one of the greatest fucking shots I've ever seen. I love that shot so much.
it's great that his wife was able to psychically be there with him so that she could remember it in Jaws: The
Right,
Revenge.
right. But
There's
like, okay, go ahead.
there's so many great moments like that. Like the thing that pisses me off more than anything in Jaws: The Revenge is the whole idea of your father died from fear, and I'm like, bitch, this guy fucking, he's a great white shark hunter. He killed 2 in 3 years.
I
Like,
know. And both times the shark was coming right at him, like
yeah,
right at him.
he's both times he's like summoning a 25-foot great white shark to, with its mouth open to him, and he's like, "Come on, you motherfucker!" And she's like, "No, he died of a heart attack because he was scared of the shark." I'm like,
Oh,
"No, that's."
oh,
And the other great thing about Jaws: The Revenge, more than anything else, is the shark. The shark spends most of the movie above water to the point where the camera lens of the shark's view is constantly above water. So I get
yep,
this like almost cartoonish view of like a shark swimming upright, and
right,
like
right,
and like
right.
I see you, I see you, and you're like,
Yeah. No, I think fucking Roger Ebert mentions that in the review. I checked out the review you told me to watch. He says how that doesn't make any sense.
I
It,
don't
it's it.
love Siskel and Ebert, but that their review of Jaws: The Revenge is one of the funny. I think I've watched it like 10 times. It's so
Yeah.
fucking funny. Yeah,
Well, so we've dunked on Jaws: The Revenge a bit. We've talked about the first one a bit, but I want to talk about the third one for a couple minutes too, because in these movies you just have these random actors that are like kind of big name actors. You have Louis Gossett Jr., you have Dennis Quaid. What is it? Leah Michelle, right?
no, Leah Thompson.
That's what I'm sorry. That's what I meant. Leah Thompson. She's in it
Leah
randomly.
Michelle's from Glee.
Oh,
This
all right,
was
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
this was Leah Thompson's first movie.
Well, I
Jaws.
think that Leah Thompson and Dennis Quaid like got together too at one point, right? Like they probably met on that movie.
Oh, I
You know?
didn't know if they were an item. All I know is from reading IMDb is that apparently Dennis Quaid was high on coke for the entire uh, filming process of Jaws 3.
Okay,
My
that doesn't surprise me.
my favorite thing, and I texted you, and you didn't believe me, and I had to, but that originally Jaws 3 was pitched as a parody called Jaws 3 People Zero. And
Right, right.
it was going to be almost like a National Lampoon's movie directed
Yeah.
by Joe Dante. And that could have been an all-time, like, almost airplane worthy movie. And what we ended up with, again, I love the concept of the movie. I love that, like, Shamu is in Jaws 3. Like,
Right.
the dolphins, by the way, like, apparently the dolphins in the movie, at least one of them is still alive and
Holy shit.
and is still like working in aquariums in like part of Florida, and like you can go and do like dolphin tours with one of the dolphins from that movie. So like I love the idea, like the the set pieces of like the water skiers at SeaWorld with the fin behind them is great. And
Yeah.
I love Simon oh my god, what's his Simon McCorkindale as
Yeah.
Fitzroyce. I love I genuinely like I love the idea of them catching a great white and putting it in the aquarium as like this attraction, because that's one of the Meg books that Steve Alton wrote is about like a Dubai prince that opens like the largest aquarium in the world and has obviously like megalodons and all these giant sea monsters in them. And I love the idea of like, oh, we're going to catch a great white to put it in our like aquarium and it gets loose or something happens. But obviously, it's like the shark looks god awful. The ending is painfully bad. It came out in
Yeah.
a year where basically every movie that came out was a 3D movie. And
Yeah.
it, I feel like had they made that, just if they had just taken like the sharks from like Universal Studios, the sharks that weren't burned from Jaws 2, and they would have just put that in SeaWorld, it would have been a much more effective movie and it would have worked better. Because, again, I think you have decent characters. Like, coked
Yeah.
up or not, like, Dennis Quaid is fine. Bess Armstrong was good. Leah Thompson is a fun character, that, you know, to be there on the side. Louis Gossett is basically just doing a different version of the mayor,
Yeah.
you know, as the billionaire who runs SeaWorld. But like
Yeah,
also,
but there's just one part that kind of blows my mind because they talk about how like there's these bubbles that keep the great white out of the park, and he says something like, "This is aquatic segregation," and it just feels so weird coming from an African American man to like laugh about segregation. I wanted to point out one other thing too, that like Louis Gossett Jr. and Dennis Quaid are in one of my favorite movies from a kid when I was a kid, which is Enemy Mine, and I think they must have been in this first and then Enemy Mine after. Um, but it's weird because Jaws 2, the kill count's much higher than Jaws 1. And then the kill count's much lower in the next two. I feel like Jaws 2 is a lot meaner and hornier than the first one. And then they kind of stay horny for the next two, but they're not as like mean as Jaws 2. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, Jaws 2 is definitely. I, I I feel that a lot of that is the behind the scenes stuff kind of coming out in the screenplay.
Yeah.
They really don't develop anybody uh, other than Brody. And Brody is
Right.
basically the same guy. You know, you have Brody, you have the mayor, you have Ellen, who's still there. You have you have you know, his sidekick who becomes the new sheriff when he gets fired, who by the way is also in Clue.
Oh, okay. Okay.
He plays Miss Scarlet's the guy who shows up and uses the phone and gets killed while he's on the phone.
Oh, he's not the partner or the other sheriff in the first one, is he? It's a new
Yeah,
guy,
no,
right?
no,
Oh,
no.
he is.
I
It's the
think
same guy from one and two.
yeah, I think
Oh,
I
okay,
think the
okay,
actor is Jerry Kramer or Jeffrey
okay,
Kramer.
okay.
He's definitely the same guy. So it's like there's definitely a continuity there. But yeah, in terms of it being mean, it really. I'll tell you, one kill that always bothered me was the woman who gets killed, who like is
On the
taking care
boat.
of Sean. Yeah,
Oh,
she like
oh, oh. Yeah.
yeah,
Good.
she like I know. Oh, you were thinking of the woman who like blows up.
Right, right, right.
Like,
I was like, holy shit, this is intense.
yeah, no,
Right.
I feel like that like makes sense because they wanted this shark obviously to have the burn on it to separate it from the first one. But like once it goes out there and goes after the kids, like I feel like, and again, I this might sound mean, but like you put the mayor's son out there.
Okay, okay, go ahead. Yeah.
And like the mayor faces zero comeuppance. In fact, it's like a joke that you see online where it's like, if you don't believe that you should vote in your local elections, just remember the mayor from Jaws is still the mayor in Jaws too. And it's
Right,
like,
right, right.
and they even make jokes in the first movie, like, you're the mayor of Shark City. People think you want the beaches open. And he is
Right.
still the mayor.
The
And
mayor.
it's
Right, right.
so it's like if you're gonna put the mayor's son out there, and if you're gonna actually make his character an asshole, which he kind of is
Right.
the whole movie,
Right.
why doesn't the shark eat the mayor's son? Like
I right. Yeah.
like
I,
and the one person who gets killed out of like the big group is like this really nice woman water to save the little boy, and then gets like just swallowed whole in front of him.
right, 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 right.
That always, like every time I'm watching Jaws 2, I'm sitting there thinking, damn it, I wish she lived. Because it's like that is so mean. Like
Yeah, but it's funny.
imagine jumping into
Yeah,
the water to save a child, and that's the character you kill.
right, right. Well, Danny, it always reminds me of the Lost World, right? Because I think the Lost World is meaner than Jurassic Park too.
Oh
And there's
yeah.
that one sequence, the one sequence where the guy is using the cord to bring the vehicle up, and then the two T-Rexes just split him like a fucking wishbone. That part always bothers me too, and it's just like that, which is a
Yeah.
sequel to a Spielberg movie as well. You know.
But
Um,
Spielberg actually directed that one.
right, right, right.
Yeah.
But it just so I don't forget, we have to throw in too. Like we're talking about, we had Louis Gossett Jr., Dennis Quaid, these random people. We got Mario Van Peebles in Jaws of Revenge, who just shows up there with a pretty goofy accent. And then what made me fucking laugh out loud is they go on a plane to leave Amity and go to the Bahamas, and just like Michael Caine is just flying the plane. Like it's not like you don't see like Michael Caine walk up and there's like some music or anything. It's just like they're talking on the plane and oh yeah, Michael Caine's flying the fucking plane too.
But also, and here's another thing that I just noticed. Ellen flies down from Amity Island, which is, like off of by Martha's Vineyard. So let's say she flies out of Boston Airport. Uh, she flies to the Bahamas, and then apparently at the Bahamas is met by her son, daughter-in-law, and granddaughter, and they then hop a puddle jumper with a gambler
Right?
to take them from, I guess, the main airport to where they live on the Bahamas. Maybe they live on a different island that doesn't have a major airport. But
Right.
that part is, yeah. Listen, I'm going to say one positive thing about Jaws the Revenge. And I think you and I can like share this. Your mom lives with you in Texas. I know your dad is still in Staten Island. So like your mom is, I would assume close to the same age as my mom and is, kind of on her own now. And,
Yeah.
And I guess maybe this is the first time I've watched Jaws the Revenge, in the last couple of years. and I actually appreciated weirdly the romance between Lorraine Gary's character and Michael Caine because it made me think about my mom and it made me think about like an older widow or an older woman who doesn't have her husband around and who is dealing with grief and finding somebody her own age to actually interact with. And I thought
Yeah.
that was it's an interesting, it's one of the few movies that like especially at that time that ever dealt with like a senior romance, and I think it
Right.
actually does that story relatively well. And
Yes. I.
the
Go ahead.
problem is that while Michael Caine is like trying to woo her, she's having psychic connections to a shark, and she's seeing flashbacks of moments she wasn't there for, and you're
Right.
like,
Right.
you know, and then they when they get to the boat at the end, she has this great moment where she's like, I had to. There was nothing else to do. I'm like, there were so many other things that you could have done.
Well, it's funny because they do kind of have chemistry, Michael Caine and her. But the problem is that Michael Caine's dialogue is so cheesy. He tells all these jokes and people just burst out laughing. He's like, I knew a one-armed man once. He took 2 minutes to play 1 minute concerto. It's just like it's not fucking funny, but everyone's like, ah! And, like the dialogue is so fucking cheesy. You've already pointed out about the welder thing. They say so much stuff that's so stupid. Mario Van Peebles, like his girlfriend says something like, keep up your strength for later, you're gonna need it. It's like it's so fucking cheesy.
And the daughter-in-law keeps talking to her mother-in-law about like the sex life she has with like
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want Athena talking to my mom about like if
Yeah,
Athena
yeah.
like the idea of like Athena turning to my mother and being like, well, Danny, got to keep him up for later. I'd be like, and that and that's like apparently that's all they talk about. It's like, oh, you finally get to hang out with your grandkid, so that I can go fuck your son.
Right.
Jesus Christ, lady.
Yeah,
Maybe we all need an angry welder in our lives. I guess
maybe. And they have like two fucking sex scenes too. There's one where like he gets her in the bedroom, I think. No. She like shoots her panties at him. Like she stretches them and shoots them at him because he's thinking about how I'm like, oh yeah, I'm trying to get this shark and I'm not telling my mom whose son was murdered by a shark. I'm not telling her about it. She shoots panties at him. Then there's the other scene where he gets her in the shed when she's working on her art. But like, so that's not the same character as the one from SeaWorld, right?
no, it
She's
is
not the
that.
same,
No. It's a different
right?
like female.
Because she's an
Yeah,
artist.
yeah.
Yeah,
Her name in the movie is Carla, and not only, but they're also married and they have a 5-year-old, and obviously, like the whole plot point in part three is like he might have a job in where was it Venezuela, and
so
he's trying to
yeah,
convince her to go with him. Yeah,
yeah,
I think there's like decent plot elements and character beats in the movies, but like the problems with Jaws 2, 3, and 4 is that they're very plainly shark movies, where Jaws, the original, is just a great movie that happens to have a shark in it. Uh, and I think that's the basic difference between them. So it's like, okay, you, you know, I'm trying to even think like, what's another example of a great movie that, oh, by the way, there's a giant animal or monster in it. The first, like, I'm going to say a movie I guarantee you've not seen, but
oh,
Alligator from
oh, I know what you're talking
1984.
about, but I haven't seen it. Yeah, yeah,
That's like a genuinely good movie with a great lead performance from, oh God, Robert. Who's the actor from? Oh my God, I'm having a mental
what,
breakdown.
Robert Forster?
Yes,
Robert Forster? Yeah,
Robert Foster.
yeah,
Robert Foster is great in that movie. He has like there's a
yeah.
romance. He has like a partner, and there's other really good characters. And it's like but it's following the template of Jaws, and that's why it's really good. And it's also written by John Sayles, who knows what he's doing. Whereas like
Yeah.
Jaws 2, 3, and 4 are just like they're movies about sharks and shark attacks, and that's the main plot of the movie. And like everything else is second, third, and fourth to there is a shark and it's eating people.
Right. Well, I think what's interesting about the franchise as a whole, right, is that if you watch the first movie, like you said before, Brody wants nothing to do with the water. He doesn't have any experience on a boat, and he's forced into it by the end of the first movie, right? And there's so much like detail and random things, like not Flint, Quint, I'm sorry, just like shouts out orders at them constantly, right? And he's like, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to get these barrels, do this. And it's like this whole other foreign world to Brody. Now, like Brody has to be creative to kill the shark in both movies. And so it shows kind of like this sort of ingenuity of man versus nature. You have to be creative to defeat this thing, otherwise it's just gonna fucking kill you. And it kind of makes sense that his son would grow up to like be this welder and to like build aquatic structures and stuff in the third movie, right? Like maybe he was inspired by his father and what happened with his father and what happened to get this shark. That makes sense. For the other son, it doesn't make as much sense because in the third one, they play up that he's scared of the water. He doesn't want to go into the water unless Leah Thompson's trying to get him into a lagoon. But then in the fourth fucking movie, he's on a boat, like checking out a piece of wood that hits a fucking dinghy, and that's how the shark gets him. So it's like, it's inconsistent, but like one thread that I've loved throughout this series is the idea of like, you have to almost be like fucking MacGyver on a boat to take on this fucking natural predator, you know?
Unless again, it's Jaws the Revenge and the shark just explodes for no reason. Like,
yeah, it's so stupid.
now, did you watch Jaws the Revenge on Peacock?
I did.
Okay, so now you said you've always seen the sequels in bits and pieces on TV.
Correct.
So did you ever see the Jaws the Revenge ending where the shark gets stabbed instead of blows up?
I have not, no.
So there's an alternate ending, and I think they played that ending on TV, whereas the theatrical ending is, I think, the one that you see on Peacock, where she drives the boat into the shark, and for reasons, it explodes.
Right.
There's another ending. Also, in the ending where the shark explodes, Mario Van Peebles' character survives somehow.
Right. Yeah.
And in the other ending, she drives the boat into the shark and pierces the shark, and the piece of wood at the end of the boat just like harpoons the shark, and there's like this terrible shot of the shark shaking back and forth with blood coming out of its mouth, basically and the shark is now connected to the boat because it's been stabbed, and it like sinks the boat. And then they steal the exact scene from the original movie where the shark sinks to the bottom.
Oh, okay.
But in that ending, Mario Van Peebles never comes back. I think he's dead.
So
it's so weird that they do that, that they have these two terrible endings. But yeah, it's just another fun thing about Jaws the Revenge.
Right, and I that we could talk about just the first Jaws for like over an hour easily. But one thing I just wanted to point out too that was kind of fun was how obvious the 3D shots were in Jaws 3, especially when the shark dies in that. And it's fucking literal jaws come out to the screen. And what's so funny about the 3D in that movie is that the stuff moves towards you. It's very clear. And then it just kind of stops and freezes in front of you. It's so fucking cheesy. But like it's Jaws literally do that when it blows up in the end of the third one.
I think what's even worse is the opening of the movie where you under the water and a fish swims in front of the camera, and you just hear this awful, and then like the shark is just the fish like head is like
Yep.
floating close to the screen, like. Ooh.
Yeah, it's so cheesy. Oh my God.
The end of Jaws 3 is genuinely one of the worst endings. And I feel bad because the guy who directed Jaws 3, Joe Alves, was the production designer for the original movie and for part
Oh,
two.
okay.
And it was like his one chance to make a movie, and I don't think he ever directed anything again.
Uh,
And like you can tell there's scenes where like the yellow sub is underwater, and
oh,
it's like literally it looks like they literally painted it onto the, or they like,
yep.
I think they did, like the technology was like that, they basically like overlapped they composited the screen and then put like the sub on top of it, and it looks so bad.
It does. It does. It like part of the sub like vanishes in a shot. Like the front middle of it just kind of disappears while it's turning at one point. I'm like, oh yeah, it's so bad. One other thing I wanted to bring up too is that you have this on your paper towel notes that you wrote, where Mario Van Peebles does the Jaws theme at one point when he's like talking to the sun.
That's
So
another
fucking
thing. That's another thing I never noticed until
yeah,
like 2 days ago when I'm watching it
yeah,
on my phone
yeah.
in a hotel room, and yeah, Michael's underwater, like looking at snails, like look, and Mario Van Peebles' character is like, dun dun dun. And I'm like, do you know what you're doing? Like you're doing the Jaws theme in a Jaws movie. Like,
It's so bad.
that,
Yeah.
that would be like if Rocky is training and somebody like behind, like Talia Shire is behind Rocky going, gonna fly now.
Oh,
And you're like, no, no, that's the music for the audience. Like
oh.
you're not supposed to know that that music is playing.
Oh, God.
So
I feel like we talked more about Jaws of the Revenge than any of the other ones, but that's okay. It's okay. We're having fun. It's the 4th of July. You're at the fucking beach. Do you have any kind of closing thing you want to say? Because we're almost done with our hour here for this
I mean,
franchise.
uh, I I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna wake up early tomorrow morning, and I'm going to do what I do on every 4th of July. I'm gonna watch Jaws, and then I'm gonna do what I've been doing for the last couple of days, and that is to go swimming in the actual beach. I've been. I'm telling you, all you need to never be afraid of the beach is just watch Jaws: The Revenge, and you'll be like, oh yeah, no problem. I'll go swimming.
Right?
But yeah, I'm gonna watch Jaws in the morning. The Academy of Motion Picture Art and Sciences Museum in LA is doing this, big 50th anniversary, uh, tribute to Jaws, and they have this huge exhibit that's supposed to be amazing. And I'm trying to work out the dynamics of me getting out to LA at some point before the exhibit closes. I think it's all the way until next June. So,
Oh, okay, okay.
yeah, my mom goes to Arizona in next year. She's going, I think, February, March, and April. So I might try to like work it out where I fly into LA, rent a car, and then drive to Arizona and end up like stay with her for a few days and then fly home from Phoenix. But
Yeah.
yeah, Jaws is a movie that it's one of the reasons that I love movies. Like I know Chris posted today that today is the 40th anniversary of Back to the Future, and I know that like for Chris, Jaws is of course one of his favorite movies also. But like Back to the Future, it's like for us the era that we grew up in. There's so many movies that helped nurture our love of movies.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and like, so like for you, obviously it's Howard the Duck. And
yeah. Hey, Leah Thompson's in that too, man.
yeah, and she's
Yes.
very funny in that movie also.
Yes. That's
Like,
yeah.
yeah, but you know what I'm talking about. Like we're products of the early '80s, and from '85 on, it's like between the movies that we grew up with, but also, and this goes to what you said, like, oh my God, you haven't ever watched Jaws straight through. Yeah, but you watched it on TV your entire life. These
Exactly.
movies, if you're of a certain vintage, like we are, you grew up watching the WPIX movies on Channel 11, movies at 8.
That's right.
Yeah, and they, or if you had HBO, they would only replay the same series of movies, and or when you first got cable, you would watch like the TBS marathons. Like I've been doing, I've been in a hotel now for the last 3, 4 nights, and every time Athena falls asleep, I end up putting on TNT, and I'm rewatching MCU movies just because they're one after another after another. And
Yep.
yeah, like Jaws is for me, it is one of the movies that really cultivated my love of movies, and it's my favorite movie of all time. And because of that, it's like I feel like it's my favorite child, and then I have the three stepchildren that I have to take in and love also because they come with a package.
Yes. Yeah, well, I just really have a much bigger appreciation for this franchise after watching all of these straight through now on Peacock. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. We're at our end right here. Do you want to do like a real quick summary of like what's on our channel right now, Danny?
I mean, we did the 28 days, weeks, and years. That we covered that franchise. We did a review of 28 days and weeks, and then we did a long form review of 28 years later. So you can check those out. I believe that's still in theaters. And I always have a bunch of shorts whenever I watch a movie and I'm interested. I put out a short on Jaws 2 the other day. I don't know what is coming up. There's a couple new horror movies coming out in theaters, but it's also 4th of July, so we can enjoy a nice little vacation.
Yeah, so you guys can do what you want. You guys can watch Jaws, Danny's favorite movie. You could watch Return of the Living Dead, which a lot of people like to watch this time of year. You could be like me. You could watch Howard the Duck, which is my favorite movie. Get to that scene where you're looking at the play duck, and you could quack off. All right, guys. Happy 4th of July. We'll